I think of the life of a miner who must work all his day underground, where his lamplight is all that will shine there, and it's dark and it's damp all around. It is 2 or 3 miles to the coal face, and the tunnel is jagged and low, but he cannot find work on the surface, so it's down in the mines he must go.
And we're joined now by Maurice, Culllen and Jimmy McNama to look back at their times here in the mines in Arigna. Maurice, you've had various involvements here at different stages of your life as a miner and indeed as a guide here in the museum as well. Tell me, first of all, what drew you to the mines in the first place as a worker?
Well, I suppose I could say it was poverty. Or near enough poverty anyway. Yeah. To make a bit of money, that was the reason.
And you obviously would have connections. Obviously, you're here in Arigna. You've lived a long time in Drumshanbo as well. From growing up, the mines really, I suppose, were the only show in town in many ways when it came to employment and came to work.
Well, basically, in Arigna here, you had 2 choices. You know, you had the pit or the boat. We called it the pit. But they were the 2 choices you had. If you didn't work in the mines, you went off to England or someplace like that, you know.
Yeah. So that was the stark reality. It was mining or emigrate.
There was no other work, like there was nothing in the line of building. There was no factories at the time, you know.
Jimmy, something very similar in Drumkieran as well. It would have been, I suppose, the mines are, unfortunately for a lot of people, immigration would have been the only other option.
Yeah. I suppose immigration was a bigger thing in the Drumkieran area because there wouldn't be that many people that came to the mines. I suppose it was that bit far away. It was far, I suppose, where I came from, down in Creevely. It was at least 12, 14 miles from here, you know. Mm-hmm. So I think there was very few people from that area that did come to the mines, but I don't know what exactly drew me to it, but again, more than Maurice, I'd say it was financial.
Yeah,
you know,
which was the big driver.
Which was the big driver.
Speaking of the distance involved and getting here, we've heard from various generations of miners and the different modes of transport, from walking, from the pit lorries, to Honda 50s, to eventually cars. What was the transport end of it like, Jimmy, especially with the distance now you had to travel?
Well, I suppose by the time I came, I was 18, I think, when I came here. And I had a car myself that time, you know, the first car when I was 17, so I drove here. So myself and another man used to drive, John Giordavani came from Drumkieran, and then later years after that, Packy McPartlin, God be good to him, he came with us. Yeah. So, and Vincent Gallagher was another man that came. So we all had our own transport, you know.
Right.
So,
Maurice, what would your memories be of the workers coming in from I suppose the pit lorries used to be, for those outside the area, was an interesting sight to see all these men in the back of a tipper lorry.
I worked in Flynn's pit first, and I used to come with Paddy Reynolds on the lorry and go around and collect whatever men had to be collected, and that was basically it. Yeah. Up on the back of the lorry. I was lucky I was first into it, I get into the front. But when you were going home, you'd be on the back of it.
You'd be on the back of it. There'd be a kind of a rush to see who'd be getting the cab, particularly
well,
in that evening.
Yeah, I suppose the older men got the front of the lorry, you know. Yeah. We were only young lads at the time, so we were well fit to climb over the side of it.
Yeah. The pit lorry, went to Drumkieran too, to collect people in Drumkieran now. Right. I never travelled on it. Okay. But I remember even when I moved to Tarman in later years in the early 80s, or mid-80s, I remember the pit lorry going down the bayous, men standing on the back of it, a little bit of a hut over them.
Some would say that, you know, wasn't it an awful way to travel to and from work, but when you had a hard day put into the mines and the alternative was walking, it was probably a great option.
Yeah. It was definitely a good option if you had no car or no transport.
Yeah. Well, there was 2 men from Killavuggy that cycled to Drumkieran to get on the lorry and then cycled home again after that. You remember the 2 Harkin brothers? Yeah.
And Packy Joe Dolan cycled from Ballinagleera to Drumshanbo and got on the lorry, Packy Moran's lorry in Drumshanbo.
Yeah. I know both of you would have interest probably in Gaelic football and sport over the years as well. But the fitness levels of those miners to go in and do a day's physical labour, what they were doing, and then to take on walking or cycling then after that, just showed that there was no shortage of fitness there at the men.
I suppose that generation were such a strong, and I suppose they were self-sufficient in what they eat, and there was no such thing as
There was no rubbish eating.
there was no rubbish eating. Let's put it that way, you know.
Yeah.
So there were strong people like.
And
that
there were
generation.
lean machines as a rule.
Yeah.
You know.
When you look at all the photographs around here and all the miners that were working in the mines, each and every one of them physically fit. When you look at those photographs,
Oh yeah.
was that part? And some of them, I suppose, would be consuming alcohol and pints of Guinness or whatever. But the physical labour, was that a big factor in them looking the way they are here in those photographs?
Oh, certainly, I would say so. Because you were burning the calories off.
Oh, you
It didn't matter what you ate or drank.
You were going to burn it off the next
Oh
day.
yeah, definitely.
But if you weren't fit anyway, you wouldn't survive on that.
No, you wouldn't be able to manage it.
No.
Yeah. Did you ever see guys coming in that just for one reason or another weren't cut out for mining?
Well, I brought one guy into Jernavuggy. Johnny Whittam was the foreman at the time, old Johnny. And he was my second foreman, first foreman in Danes, you know. And that lad was from Boyle. I'll not mention his name now, but he was from Boyle. And it was a long way into Jernavuggy, you know. And we walked in anyway, and Johnny was sitting down on a log or something over in the corner. And I says, "This is so-and-so." Johnny, "How are you doing?" Johnny said to him. "Well, what do you think of it so far?" Well, he says, "If I could find the hole I came in on," he says, "I'd be gone."
Excuse me.
So he had to get some of the lads to walk him back out again, and that's the last we seen of him.
And that was the last.
Yeah, he was the shortest stint of any man I've seen coming into the mine.
Came in and turned and
Back out again.
Yeah. Jimmy, did you ever see anybody like that would have maybe balked after a day or two?
I can't remember of anybody now. I was in Flinsbit all my time,
Yeah.
but I don't think I can remember of anybody that balked and didn't come back, you know.
Yeah.
Might be if I might have stayed a week or two or something like that maybe, but that'd be, you know,
Yeah.
got his first pay packet and he was away with himself.
One of the things, Maurice, I presume, when you'd have been doing the tour guides here, and the other guides will tell you this as well, people from overseas that wouldn't be in the area, we probably grew up on the stories from family members that worked in the mines, and as a result of that, you'd be able to maybe have a fair idea in your mind what the conditions were like. But when you describe the conditions maybe for people from different countries and outside of the area, lying in water, shoveling out coal, very little ground and room to manoeuvre, what's the reaction that you get from tourists when they hear these stories?
Astonished, you know, that nearly wouldn't believe that you done it. You know, only that it's so well documented that it was done. But astonishment, that's now what I find with most of them. They're in awe when they look at the coal face, you know, and look at where you went in to cut out coal.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of them thinks that we were off the head to be in there at all.
Almost, it's most of them, definitely. Probably them all. But
Jimmy, when you
they rethink their job when they look at that one.
yeah,
You know, and loads of them say that. And not complain anymore.
I know it is. Jimmy, when you were describing the type of work that you were doing, again, say people from, say, Creevalay down towards North Leitrim that mightn't have been exactly familiar with it, and some of them, you meet them out or whatever, they ask you, what are you doing, where do you work, and you tell them the conditions. Did you ever get strange looks saying, what the heck are you doing up there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, regular, John, yeah. When you was actually would be young, you'd be out dancing or other dancing, then you'd be meeting different people and say, what are you at with yourself now? Oh, I'm working in Flynn's place. What in the name of God are you at down there? You know, this type of reaction. There's no way I'd go down there anyway, you know, when you start explaining to them what exactly the type of work you were doing. Oh, there's no way I'd go in there.
Yeah, so it kind of took a special breed to go into it.
Yeah.
When you think back on day one and the different jobs that you had in the pits, it probably evolved and changed over a period of time, Maurice, did it? Once you came in, you moved into different positions then after a while.
Oh, yeah. Well, I worked on most things in the pit at one time or another. But mainly in the last good number of years, I was brushing, you know, which was blasting the rock and cleaning it up. And hence it was called brushing. That, I believe, coming from way back 100 years ago or more, you know, cleaning up. Yeah.
We heard one of the roles said, we have a hutch here just beside you for was bringing the coal. When a lot of guys would be going in and starting off too, they would be helping drawers that would be bringing out these to push out the hutches, and they would be going up serious hills with them at that
As
stage.
a youngster, you wouldn't be, you know, put in drawing the first day as a rule. You know, you'd be outside the pit, maybe coping hutches into the coal bunkers and in and out maybe with someone and things like that, and then you come in and you have different jobs around the pit. My first job above in Flynn's pit, Mickey Rinn was fireman at the time, was cleaning a sub. You know, there was a hole down on the ground and a hose and a nozzle of a pump in it, and that was pumping the water. You know, the pump was pumping the water out of it, and it did get gritted up after a while and block the pump. So you had to go down and clean out that grit and all that. That was the first job I had in the pit.
It was a good introduction to mine. Jimmy, was there any jobs in the pit that you preferred more than others?
I suppose I spent most of my time in the pit now I spent shoveling coal.
Yeah.
I did everything in it really. I spent a good while brushing myself and Gay Sheeran worked together as brushing together. But most of the time would be, and then I worked on the machine with Paddy McNama. Myself and Paddy was on the coal cutting machine for a few years too.
Talk about the coal cutting and using the coal cutting machine, because a lot of people would associate mining with an awful lot of sheer manual labour, power and strength. But there was an awful lot of skill involved as well. It was a craft in some sense.
Yeah, the coal cutting machine especially, that you need to have your wits about you certainly when you be using that, you know, because the amount of power that was in that, and if anything, you know, and you're still lying on your side, you know, and this machine coming towards you, so you had to be very careful with it, you know. You let it rope and you put up a stay and then it pulled itself in and cut the coal in underneath the coal and cut it. But,
So the conditions where you were using this machine, very cramped, very tight.
And very dangerous because you were backing away from the machine all the time.
Yeah, you were going reverse off, and the person that was
I
using
drove on the Durnavuggy for a short while now I tell you, as Jimmy says, to have your wits about you. There were tricky things to handle.
It wouldn't be a job for everyone, I presume, in the mines, using a coal
No, there wasn't. I suppose there was only 3 or 4 different people in Flynn's mine that ever used it.
There was a bit of an act to it too, you know, like everything else in the pit, you know.
In those conditions, and when we talked about maybe the length of the day, I think before we started recording, that it might be relatively short. If you were on tonnage, you could be gone maybe by lunchtime or whatever. But for every minute that you were in there, would one of the big aspects of the working day be concentration? Never letting your guard down, having that concentration going all the time.
Well, you were always aware of what was over you, that's for sure. And that was important. And you listened to the sounds of the pit. You know, it was cracking and banging all the time because you were undermining the mountain. So there was subsidence there constantly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Telltale signs that when you'd be down there in the mines, and although you'd be shoveling out coal, you'd be taking it out, you'd still probably be working. Would you be on your own, more or less, working? And
you would, yeah.
You would.
Yeah.
And what would those sounds like? And
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was just going to say, like, you had timber pillars we used to put up, and as you moved along, then you could hear them starting to take the weight, you know, and you'd hear the cracking of that.
And you see water running out of them, and you know there was weight coming on.
You know.
And you might get bits, if there was a fall coming, you get bits of grit spitting, you know, or coming out of the roof. That was a telltale sign for sure.
To move out.
Yeah, well, you pull back out of that.
Yeah. And safety-wise, you'd obviously be wanting to be getting out, but would it be frustrating to be going out if you knew there was a good seam of coal there within reach that you could?
Yeah, but it was there when you went back.
When you went back.
It was still there. Yeah.
But,
And what would be done in the meantime? How would extra props? How would you prop it up?
whenever, as you were working your way in, you were putting up a prop every 2 or 3 foot, if it was required.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't required, it was sensible to put it up.
Yeah.
You know.
Just to take
There was a story about one man in there in Durnavuggy, and the mining inspector came in, Toner was his name, and he went into the straight road, and this gentleman was away up 5 or 6 yards up the gob, not a pillar in sight, and he shouted in, he says, "Excuse me, what's your name?" And he shouted his name back to him. He says, "That's okay. I just wanted it for your epitaph."
And there was
I
no
can't
pillars.
say who the man was.
No, I know. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was he was prepared to take that chance,
Yeah,
not to
well,
put up the
he
pillars.
was a good miner, and he could produce lots of stuff, but you know, and he did take the chance, and he got away with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Would you take that chance on a regular basis, Maurice? Would he?
on a regular basis.
On a
yeah.
regular basis, yeah. Jimmy, it's amazing to think with the level of danger that was around the place. And nowadays, if we use building sites, for example, and health and safety officers play such a huge role, there was never, I presume, there might come a mining inspector, as we've heard, and we've heard in previous interviews as well.
Yeah.
But for the companies that would be running the mines at the time, but there was never the employment of a health and safety officer, was there?
No.
No.
Never
Health and
heard tell of
safety
it.
was never mentioned.
Never was mentioned.
There was no such thing in most jobs that time.
Yeah.
So you'd see fellas up in a building site there, up on 2 barrels and a plank, one plank, no handrails, anything. You know, at that time, most houses were built that way. You know, or slip heads, what they call slip heads, you know, put up on an angled prop put to them, you know, and a plank put across. That's how they built the blocks and roofed them and
That's
everything.
right, yeah.
So there was no such thing as health and safety at all, John.
That was certainly one word that never was used in a mine anyway, was health and safety.
No.
But yet, for the length of time that they were open and the level of work that was involved, you could say relatively a small number of accidents.
Oh, yeah, very small number of fatalities.
Yeah.
You know, but people for all they mightn't have been, you know, a lot of them highly educated. They had common sense. And that's basically what mining was, common sense. If your senses will tell you, if you go in underground in any place, you look at the roof and you study the situation, you say, that doesn't look safe there.
Yeah.
So you won't stand in under it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had one very
Coming
serious.
out every evening and say out of Flynn's pit, which shouldn't be too far away from here, where both of you worked, Rock Hill as well. There'd be all these panoramic views meeting you when you come out in the evening, that the miners' walk is on now, that people listening and watching these interviews are probably enjoying the scenery that you were looking at when you were finished up your working day. Could you give me a comparison, Jimmy, what that was like coming out and being hit with these views of Loch Allen, for instance, compared to being in a dark hole, shoveling coal or cutting coal for the 6 hours previous to that?
Well, you were probably kind of blinded when you came out first.
Exactly.
You know?
You wouldn't,
You wouldn't see
for
anything.
five or 10 minutes.
You know?
So it took a while to get the guys adjusted.
Yeah.
In many ways, Maurice, you know, there was an awful lot of people would have made careers, worked many years in the mines. Nowadays, do you think, with the conditions that you worked in, if the were to open again, would it be very, very difficult to get workers to go into them?
Well, it'd be very difficult in the beginning to open them the way health and safety has gone today.
Yeah.
It'd be a whole-
Would it have been feasible? That's a very good point.
It probably wouldn't, certainly not in the situation we were in.
Yeah.
But the whole thing would have to be changed, you know.
Yeah.
And
There's been such an emphasis, I presume, on safety now as well.
oh yeah.
Would it be viable, maybe if I put it that way? Would you think
Well, let's say the cost would be
the cost of the safety would be
a problem.
Probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, Jimmy, you'd agree
No, I
with
wouldn't think
that.
it would be viable even to
I don't think so.
not even not alone getting somebody to go in there. But I don't think you'd have that problem, because I
Yeah.
don't think the problem would ever arise of you looking for somebody to go and work on it. You know?
Like when we were doing up this one here, I was foreman on that, and health and safety was such a priority in that. We put up that concrete portal first there. I shuttered it and we secured it, and we worked our way in literally foot by foot, having steel over us all the time as we were working our way in. That's the
As
only way
opposed to the
we
props,
done
yeah.
in relative safety.
How much of a contrast was that, Maurice, compared to, say, your times as a miner, and this facility now was open over 20 years at this stage, and when you were getting that together, to come from an environment where, you know, back in 1990 there wasn't a huge emphasis, and for years before that, to come into such a safety conscious environment then, did that take a lot of getting used to?
Well, it did, and it took a lot of time.
Yeah.
That was the big thing, and a certain amount of money.
Yes.
You know, to get it done properly, within those kind of parameters or rules, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why it took so long to do it up.
Yeah.
You know, well, it was 2.5 years. It took us 2.5 years to get that in order.
Jimmy, for those of us that would have grown up around here and would have lived relatively close to the mines, one of the things that I can always remember, and being a few miles away from them, was the explosions when they'd be blasting at the time. Talk to me a little bit about the volume of explosives that would have been used for blasting out like that, and that whole procedure.
Well, I suppose, first of all, the explosions, they came from infield. That's where you had to go to collect them. The guard escort had to be, so then they were brought inside in the mines and they had to be under lock and key in there.
Yeah, and there'd be a lot of security in transporting them because we were in the times of the Troubles in Northern Ireland as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So then after that, somebody had to bore the rock, and there was a certain person that bored the rock. Then somebody else came along after, and used to say, stim the holes. Put the jelly into the holes. You had to push them in there, and then you set your fuse, and then you had to make sure that everybody was out of sight and and you lit your fuse and you took off as quick as you could out that road and.
Yeah.
You'd wait for the shots.
So there was no timers or anything like that in them. So how long was the fuse?
Well, that was up to yourself, John, how long you wanted to leave.
About a minute or 30 centimetres a minute,
roughly.
Give or take.
Yeah. So if you would sorry, Maurice, I'm cutting across you again. If you would say 3-4 holes, you want to make sure then that you counted those as they went off, that you heard 3 or 4 shots going, because you go back in that road and maybe there could be a delay, and next thing maybe another one.
I was going to ask that question. What was it like going in the aftermath then of an explosion? When could you go in, and what was it like?
Well, you couldn't go in straight away because all you got was a wave of dust and to cut the throat of you.
And
so
jelly.
Yeah.
No, we didn't really know at the time. Like the dust was bad enough. I have seen the closest from it, but the fumes of the jelly, which was basically nitroglycerin fumes. They were very bad for your health.
Yeah.
It was Professor Fitzgerald that told me that in Dublin. You know.
Those conditions, and I suppose health conditions, inevitably, if you worked long enough in the mines, there was always a risk of something like that.
Oh yeah, well, anybody that worked any number of years, certainly in silica sandstone. Yeah, that's predominantly what's around Lough Allen.
It is,
You know, most of Roscommon is limestone. But the immediate area where the mines are surrounding Lough Allen is nearly all sandstone. You know.
Jimmy, talk to me a little bit as well about what the life outside the mines was like. And the local economy was probably booming, to the sense that there was loads of shops, there was loads of pubs, there was loads of businesses set up as a result of the mines, where mining families would be spending money. An awful lot more bars and pubs in the areas maybe than what they are now. A lot of drapery shops have closed, particularly I think around Drumshanbo.
Yeah.
A lot of small businesses have gone to the wayside. The mines were responsible for being a big driver in the local economy for many years. Yeah.
I suppose the mines and the power station, you had both going at the one time, so they were huge, especially to towns like Drumshanbo and Drumkeer.
There's 18 pubs in
Ballyfarn.
18 at one time. Yeah. I think there's about 5 now, isn't there? Something like that.
Something like that now, yeah.
You know, and there's only 1 or 2 of them really doing business.
Yeah. Same was made in Ballyfarnon as well, how there's been a huge reduction. It's down to 1 bar there now at the minute. Your memories from that time, when the pubs would be going on, when Monday came in as the day off, that would be a day where, if there was any dust that we were talking about earlier on, it was fairly washed down on a Monday. Would it be right in saying that?
Washed down on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
No, it was.
Yeah.
What was our excuse?
I remember when I was...
Excuse it. You know, a lot will be made of people that talk about drinking cultures and that's associated with construction during the boom or whatever. And there would have been a bit of socialising as well. You know, when the mines were on the go, Jimmy, let it be a Rigna, let it be Drumkeerin or whatever. But was too much maybe made out of that? Where, you know, miners would probably go on a few pints and a bit of a blowout and let off some steam, would they?
Oh, they would, but sure, everybody else would do it too.
But it was doing it as well, yeah.
I suppose we're all at an age.
Any trouble much.
No.
Now and again there might be a bit of a frackle, but
you'll get that in any. You'll get that in any. It didn't necessarily need to be a minor to be.
To be that.
an hour now and not Sunday night. It could be a little bit.
And nighttime entertainment that time as well. We used from Shambo again for an example. The Mayflower would have been the spot, would it have been?
Mayflower was the spot.
Was the spot. Yeah.
Memories of bands and everything that would have played there.
Finest of bands.
Big Tom and Joe Dolan and all those big bands, Philomena Begley, Susan McCann, all those big
Nothing like it now.
No.
And it would have been fantastic to see the crowds and all the cars, all the motorbikes.
All the Honda 50s lined up outside, John. And,
that keeps coming back. There's so many memories that people have from those lines of Honda 50s, as you mentioned, Jimmy, outside the various pubs, outside the Mayflower or whatever. Drink driving probably wasn't as big as concern back then, was it?
It was never mentioned no more.
It was like health and safety.
I was just going to say that, John. It was just like when we talk about here, health and safety.
Never was mentioned. Owen Glenn, to bring a crowd in, he had them in the boot. He had them. He could have 15 in the car.
He was a local Hackney driver.
Taxi or Hackney driver, and he'd pick them up again after the dance and bring them back home. And he'd do 7 rounds.
I remember us going to a dance in Drumahare one night, and there was 7 or 8 was in the car, and the driver, I'm not saying who he was, but he had a few more than the rest of us, and he was stopped by the guards. And the guard said to him, he says, I think he says you're overloaded there, and you were drinking. He says, you know yourself, Mr. Sweeney. And he was the guard Sweeney that was in Drumahare. He says, well, you go ahead. I think there was about 7 in the car.
You'd rarely ever be stopped unless that you ran into someone.
Unless you were in an
accident. Different times, great memories, I presume. It wasn't a bad way of life. I've been a minor, was it?
Great way to now.
There's some great stories like to be told. There's still there's lots of.
Like you'd go to Flynn's there on a Saturday night or a Sunday evening or that, and it was jam packed with people. Dancing and everything, and the yarns were fantastic. You'd laugh the whole night.
You would,
You had some great characters here in St. Louis.
There were some great characters,
Great storytellers. You had magicians. You had comedians that tell you in the mines. You had different McCares in the mines. Any stories that's probably suitable that we can tell on camera will spring to mind to finish up.
Well,
you one, Maurice.
Well, one comes to mind about a certain gentleman that was just married, and was a very cute fella in the mine, and he was heading home this night from the mine, and he knew your man was in the pub, and there was a bit of snow falling at the time, so he went as far as the house, and he walked backwards up to the door and walked out again at the same track. And of course your man came from the pub with a few on him, and he said to the wife, who was here? There's no one here, she says. Well, I seen the tracks going out, so I leave the rest up here.
It was time for marriage counselling. Jimmy, I know in Flynn's mines where you worked as well, there were some great characters there too.
Some good characters there. We had one time, and this was back in the early 80s. Runners were something new on the market. They were never heard telling nearly around in Kieran or Regan, I'd say at the time. We had a lad arrived at work with a pair of runners on him. And Paddy Waters, God be good to him, was the fireman at the time. And I think this man now, I'd say, was probably on his way home from the night before. And I think he might have been down around Cross Hill, he was coming from him. But anyway, he came with a pair of runners on him, sure. Poor Paddy never seen a pair of runners in his life. A lot of us had seen runners. But as the day went on, anyway, Paddy, this man couldn't be found. So I was coming down the slope, and I met Paddy coming up, and he says, Jimmy, he says, did you see that picture? He says, with the paper shoes. Oh, God, Paddy, I said, no, I didn't see it.
It was difficult to find him, was it?
It was difficult to find him. I'll not name any names.
Not naming any names. Was there any place you could hide in the mine, say, if you were going in and you had a rough night the night before, was there any place you could hide? Or surely it wasn't that kind of environment, or unless you were very cute.
Well, it was.
There was an odd fellow who could work it.
Hide, all right. But really, what would you hide from, really? Because if you were going to do a day's work, you had to do it anyway.
Yeah,
So there was no point in hiding.
The only thing that took away was the shiftman.
Yeah.
So you kind of two tranches of miners on it. You had the piece workers or base workers, but you had a certain amount of men, go around the pit and work for the foreman, and they were paid by the hour or by the day.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't rush too much into anything.
No.
But think about it before they done it.
Did give it ample consideration before the
Yeah, exactly.
There's another one of them now could dodge along,
Yeah.
He'd be walking with something in his hand. Doing
No. Excuse me.
They're going to or coming from.
Yeah, well, we've heard stories about the signs of the mountain that would be telltale signs of, God forbid, if it was going to come in. Oxygen and air was a big thing as well, where most people would probably run a couple of miles if they see a mouse or a rat beside them. In a mine, not necessarily the case. You'd nearly be happy to see them in some instances.
But I don't know what's anyone happy to see them. There was plenty of them in it when I came first. But they were left to their own devices.
Oh, yeah.
The older fellas there, when you came as a young fella, they'd say, leave them alone, They won't bother you if you don't bother them.
Yeah.
That's basically what was done. But I think in the latter years, they disappeared.
I think so, yeah.
I'd say they got their last supper.
Yeah, and that was it. That was curtains after that. Lighting and obviously the dark conditions, Jimmy, and people will see the photographs of the pit helmets and the lights that was on them. Now nowadays there's really powerful lights and they're charged up the night before for people out walking or whatever. But talk to me a little bit about the mining helmets and the lights that you were using and how effective were they?
Yeah, and I suppose when I started, we had the carbide lamp, as we called it. That was with carbide, and you had water, and you just lit that, and that was. But the light of that would be poor now compared to what came along. That was, we say, in later years you got the battery lamp after that, which completely. But like if you were in a place where there'd be bad air, you wouldn't even be able to keep the light on it. If the air was so poor, Yeah.
And how would you work in conditions like that then?
Well, you just had to. You had to put it as right. Make the best you could. Yeah.
Sweating very heavy. And,
You would. You would.
gasping.
Yeah, you would.
But,
Yeah, you wouldn't want to spend long in it now, you'd want to be getting in and get out as quick
that
as.
was the only light you had, the carbide.
But that was all, yeah.
The carbide lamp was a settling lamp,
Often heard them described as glorified candles.
Well, that's basically
Well, yeah.
what it is.
You could probably get a better light of a candle than some of them.
Not what some of them would have
You
in it.
didn't keep them in
Yeah.
good order.
Oh, yeah.
They let you down.
Yeah.
Because they get stuffed and
Yeah.
all that kind of.
And then you keep the helmet on your head, was another problem.
Yeah.
The final question, if you were to rewind the clock and you were given the choice at the very beginning to go into the mines or maybe look at different careers, would you have taken the mining option again?
Well, if it was young again, I probably might.
Yeah.
It never bothered me, really. It was just a job.
Yeah.
And it was good money. You made better money than you made outside or any place else in this.
Oh,
look.
yeah.
Jimmy?
Yeah, the same. I think I'd probably go into the same thing again. Yeah, I would. And again, it was the money. And we were young too. I suppose we were building houses at that time. And could get a miner's loan then.
Yeah.
The miner's loan was only 1% at the time. Now you also could get a county council loan. But the interest rate for a county council loan at the time was 14%, whereas you could get.
That's what so many miners here in the interviews would have mentioned, the crippling interest rates at the time. But the miners' loan was probably a big incentive and a big attraction as well for maybe getting.
But the maximum you could get, John, really was 4,000. That was.
Well, that was adequate to build.
Oh, it was, yeah.
At that time.
It was great. It was a great help that time.
That would have been taken into consideration by the builders, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you were saying the interest rates, I think the bank was 18% that time.
Colossal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm nearly sure the county council was 14 or 14 and a half. 15,
probably.
yeah.
geographically here, where Arigna is situated, majority of it in Roscommon, parts of it in Sligo, parts of it in Leitrim. So I presume Jimmy is a man that would have followed Gaelic football closely and passionately all your life. There'd have been good crack round here when, coming on to matches, say, for instance, they might have been meeting that many times maybe in the 80s. I know they did probably in the 90s, but the mines would have closed. Say if Roscommon were playing Leitrim or Roscommon were playing Sligo, you mentioned Gay Sheeran, who you worked with, who played for Roscommon for many years. So would rivalry be good round the pits when it came to Gaelic football?
Ah, good, yeah. It'd all be great for the banter, like, Oh, God, yeah. Bit of crack, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Certainly did from Roscommon.
Certainly reason for it's common, yeah. The same to this day.
I come from
That's right, Maurice was born in Sligo. Yeah,
Like Calami up there.
yeah.
And Jimmy, again, I suppose the Leitrim Roscommon rivalry would be good fun at that.
That'd be
as well.
good fun, yeah. It'd be good fun, yeah.
In the case of Gay Sheeran, maybe Gaelic football, one of the best known minors from that end of it. Would you have gone easy or hard on him? Say, for instance, 1980, the All Ireland was coming up that time. What was it like, maybe, to have a work colleague like that would have been going on?
It was great to hear the stories from Gay alone, to hear about the training sessions and all that. Like, that they were, it was great to be hearing all that type of stuff,
Yeah.
And it was a great. Well, myself and Gay.
Interested.
Oh, I did, yeah.
You follow it, like, even though you mightn't, we say, agree if you were a Leitrim with Roscommon, you'd like to see them win it.
You would, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Especially when you had a work colleague. Yeah. If there wasn't playing later, or Sligo.
That bit of interest to it. That'd be one of the big pluses. Was Jimmy going to a game on a Sunday, no work on Monday?
No, work on Monday. That was great for me, yeah. It was, yeah.
It was often catastrophe.
And it was.
It could resemble a Monday, man.
It was a shaky one.
Yeah.
Certainly after a match.
Yeah.
Well, as the old saying goes, short Monday, long Tuesday. It could happen. All right, well, look, lads, great to look back on your memories of your times here in the mines. Maurice, I know you had the time here as a tour guide as well. So plenty of great memories. Thanks, lads, for sharing them. It's fantastic to hear the stories. And once again, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting us. Thank you.
I think of the life of the miner who must work all his day underground, where his lamplight is all that will shine there, and it's dark and it's damp all around. It is 2 or 3 miles to the coal face, and the tunnel is jagged and low, but he cannot find work on the surface, so it's down in the mines he must go.